heart. Then went and gone ahead and kind of pursued my MBA. Post which kind of been into product roles, pre and post MBA. Started more like a business analyst pre MBA, and then kind of went into the core product side. Mostly worked on the lending and payments area. I've kind of led product programs, partnerships across lending, worked with a lot of marketplaces, demand partnerships, etc. And as well as the product team, right? Like worked with early stage startups where I've set up product teams, data science teams, etc. Kind of now on a sabbatical, and I'm joining a early stage product company in a couple of days, right? So last was with Incred, which is a very well-known and a very leading NBFC in India. So I was leading the entire consumer lending product and platform for Incred. Right. So yeah, product and fintech kind of runs in my DNA. That's in a short, I think. Yeah, that's about me. Over to you, Harshit. Why don't you take a couple of minutes to give an intro, and it would be great. Yeah, great to turn on the video.
Hi, Gautam. I'm audible?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So, hi, everyone. I'll just give my quick introduction. I'm working as a product business analyst with Authy Research Services and working on TruScreen product, which help different businesses in the faster and seamless onboarding for their customers and merchants with the help of different verification and KYC APIs. So, my core area of responsibility is to understand the business strategy and requirement, prioritize them, and then document them in the form of user story or prototypes. And with the guidance of my senior product managers, and then share the same with the development team, and then lead the Scrum ceremonies, and make sure that all the requirements are well catered in the final deliverables. Before that, I worked with App Inventive. It is a service-based startup, and worked as a product owner. And since it is a service-based company, I worked on various products and various different domains. And mainly I worked with one of the restaurant company, Paradise Biryani, and led the complete digital, we build a complete digital set of products for them, and I led the complete product development. And before that, I worked with Daffodil Software for more than 2 years, and as a business analyst, and with having the same set of responsibilities, and worked on various small and few big projects of different domains. I'm talking about my education. I'm an engineering graduate from computer science, and I started mainly as a core programmer. Initially, after 6 months of programming, I switched to business analyst, and then after that, slowly to product owner, and then now looking forward for some product management role in various good organizations. Yeah, that was all about me.
Perfect. Thanks, Harshit. So I think at the outset, I think thanks. So I'll start off start off the interview. At the outset, thanks for applying to our company, right? So we believe in a very lengthy and a very thorough process. Now that you've given a quick overview, right? I just wanted to pick your brains and understand. So you've already been a product analyst, kind of a / business analyst. You're working with the product teams, etc. From the JD we've kind of shared with you, which is typically a product APM or a PM kind of a JD, where we work with cross-functional teams, marketing teams, basically your business stakeholders, end clients, etc. How do you envisage this role to be different from what you're doing right now?
Okay, so I understand your question. Yeah, so currently my role is mainly focused on the execution and implementation part. So I make sure whatever the strategy or whatever the priorities are shared by the product managers, senior product guys in my team, I execute them with the help of my development team. And the role which I've applied to, I assume and I believe that it would also add to my products. Like I would also be able to deliver and learn in the product strategy area, where I can, based on the different market conditions, market feedback, and doing various sort of competitive analysis. So I will be able to work on the product strategy part as well, along with the things which I'm doing right now and I'm good at. So yeah, so that worked, that what made me to apply for the.
Got it. So you kind of mentioned around product strategy and you being more involved on the execution side. So why don't you run me through how does product development kind of work, and where what's your area of involvement in your current role right now?
Sure. So, I, along with my product manager, mainly they lead this particular thing. But yeah, I involve with them to prioritize the backlog based on different data they must be receiving with the help of some. They must be receiving from different stakeholders like sales team or doing their own analysis. So I prioritize the backlog items, and then based on those backlog items, we prepare our sprint backlog, and then I lead. I then based on the sprint backlog, I understand what is the business proposition here, and what would be the and basically that user story or that task is converted into a functional requirement, right? So I prepare those functional requirements in the form of user story, FRDs, or in wireframes or prototypes,
Mm-hmm.
and then I lead the development team. I lead all the Scrum ceremonies from sprint planning to sprint review and retrospective. I like along with the development team, I do all these activities and make sure that whatever the sprint we have decided and whatever the sprint goal we have planned, that is executed. So I mainly work in this area, in the this development or the execution area.
Got it. So you
The
mentioned you prioritize them with the product managers, and you said you convert them to user stories, right? So what is it that, I mean, what are you grooming? So when you say backlog, on what basis are you prioritizing and then writing requirements? Because usually requirements are written and then groomed, right?
Right. Yeah. So basically, like requirement, I'll just tell you how we prioritize it. Since we are working in a B2B SaaS based, like working in a B2B SaaS based product, so we have a various clientele with us. So and like various big clients who are with us for so many years. So our first priority is to if any client requirement is coming to us directly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because they are already paying us in various amount. So if any client requirement, like if they have a set of product and they want some customization configuration in that, so that is always our first priority.
Mm-hmm.
Second priority is if there are in our existing product, if we have to enhance something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if we have maybe a digital KYC SDK, and we think that we can enhance the user experience to that, so we will do that, so our client can so our client's life is easy. And then we move to the new set of features or functionalities or different services which we can adopt with the help of maybe our sales team feedback or our existing clients feedback, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe our new prospects requirement, or maybe the competitive analysis. So we prioritize our backlog in this manner, right? So
So I'm assuming, sorry, I'll just interrupt. So when you're
yeah.
saying you're taking competitive analysis, what the feature requests you're getting, the CRs you're getting from your customers, etc., right?
Mhm.
What is your end metric, right? What is that one or two metric your PMs are tracking basis which you're prioritizing?
Okay. So talking about the metric, we are mainly so that is our uh, like the since we are work since we have a the product which I am working is a set of APIs, if I talk in a simple terms. So
Yeah.
the metric which we look forward to is the number of transactions,
Mm-hmm.
number of hits, number of API hits. So that is a metric we look forward to. So let's say in the month of March we have 10 lakh hits.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we will be based on whatever we will be prioritizing.
Mm-hmm.
So the key metric is that it should increase, like our number of transactions should increase based on our target.
But
So
how do you control the top of the funnel, right? Because end of the day, you guys, I mean, the product team is not involved in outbound or inbound sales, right? So tomorrow, let's say 5 of your clients out of 5 lakhs, basically volume goes out. So would product scare it go for a toss then?
like it is not directly affecting us, But yeah, so in case that uh, deal is lost or a client is gone due to the like condition of the product, if product is not like behaving good, then definitely it will affect us. But yeah, not directly. In case a client has better pricing with some different company or whatever, they are very situation, so directly it is not affecting us. But yeah, in case product is not good, then it will definitely affect us.
Right. So then what is your team tracking? That's what I'm trying to pick your brain here, right? Because we believe that product managers should be somewhere accountable for, cannot be accountable for top of the funnel completely, but they should be totally accountable for what happens in between, right? So what is the responsibility of the PMs then? Because we are typically a very similar setup and we kind of work on the same B2B model where our company basically supplies to large banks, NBFCs, and basically similar enterprises, right? So as you rightly said, if any deal is lost or won, etc., the PMs are not responsible. But then what are the PMs measuring? So that's so how, if you had to join our organization, what would be the metrics you would measure then?
Right. So along with that, so along with that, we also measure the like basically the response time. Like what is the uh, so basically the key quality of API, which is the miss and hit rate. We measure that. The response time, we measure that. So yeah, we measure the API quality metric in these two forms.
Got it. So another point I think for us a critical part from a JD standpoint or from a role standpoint is that we work with financial services, right? We are a very heavily regulated entity, right? And we have access to data. As part of the product development process, how do you make sure that what you are building is compliant as per regulations?
Okay, so like we have a set of we have set of people who take care of this thing. So we have a compliance team.
Mhm.
So whatever in case there are any changes to the existing functionality or product, we have a set of template which we do like which we submit that we have changed these things in the term of flow, in the term of how we will be storing client data and all these things.
Mhm.
So, and in case we have a new addition to our functionalities or feature, then we also share those documents with them. So yeah, we are not like directly checking whether these particular things are compliant or not, but we do share these information with the people who are responsible for this. And if in case they say, let's say uh, UIDI doesn't allow you to store Aadhaar information, right? So in case we have something in place and they say that you should not store this, then we will take decision accordingly. So we just share this information with them and whatever, because they are the experts with this particular thing, whatever information they share, we work accordingly and based on the prioritization.
Right. So how does this work closely with your development cycle? As in, because I'm assuming you're on sprints or agile.
Right.
How does all of this get baked in? Because let's say stakeholder requirements. Like the reason I asked this is pretty common in financial services, right? Suddenly RBI mandates something, SEBI tells something. Government, there's a Supreme Court order which came out in 2018 which said Aadhaar numbers can't be stored. So similarly, things keep changing, right? So how do you bake in requirements, sudden requirements which are coming in from stakeholders? Could be compliance teams, could be risk teams basically internally, or could be even data architecture or platform, right? How do you as a product manager, how would you bring all of this together and prioritize?
Got it. So, like we generally what we do is, so we have a it is not directly what the sprint Scrum ceremony allow, but we have a set of sprint capacity, which is dedicated to our different these kind of activities, ad hoc activities, because they are always since we have a we have enterprise products, right? So there are always some customization and always some kind of issues because we are directly dealing with the government data, right? So and you know how government technical things works. So anytime they can break, maybe at midnight or maybe at 6 a.m. in the morning. So anytime they can break, and we have to work accordingly. So we have a set of capacity in our sprint dedicated to that. That whatever ad hoc activities are there, whatever uh, client customization, in case it is ad hoc customization which is on the highest priority, or any compliance issues are also there, that if they say that this was not compliant, this has to be fixed in next 5 days because we have an audit. So there could be a situation, right? So we have ad hoc capacity allocated to that, and rest of the capacity we make sure that we follow the sprint in a right manner.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. So I think very relevant. That was very helpful also. So another key point which kind of is important, differentiating for us is, from my understanding, you are currently in a role where you're more of a back-end infra player, right? Where you're not a customer exposed. There's no UI layer which is involved, right? Whereas in our product, we hold our PMs accountable for the usage metrics, right? How much of a feature has been used, etc. So my question here would be, you would be responsible for a module or a couple of modules for which you would be doing a lot of user research, enhancing usability, etc. How would you kind of go about the entire process, making sure usability metrics are always as per what your senior product leaders have defined, etc. Short question: how would you do user research, considering we're an enterprise company, right, and the multiple layers involved? How would you go about it?
So, okay, just reiterating the question here, you want me to share how would you do the customer research, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the customer research can be done in two manners. One is we have like lots of NBFCs and banks or various fintech companies in our clientele. So we here also we do a regular survey, and that can be done to understand what sort of problems they are they are facing regularly. So for instance, I was owning a complete module in my current product with respect to bank statements. So I was owning it completely, and it was initiated because in our one of the survey we understood that like the fraud part is fraud in the bank statement is kind of difficult. Like if someone see if there is a one page statement, then that can be seen easily, but in case there is a 50-page statement, then it can get missed easily by a human eye. So with respect to that survey only, so we started a particular module in our current product, which yeah. So yeah, we can do survey with respect to like with our existing clients, how our current services are working, and what set of problems they are facing, which is kind of aligned to what our company or our product do. So one is this, and so they might share information, like they have been sharing information, and they might share information about how like in the product which they have been using, how like what can be added to that to make their life easy, because someone X company would say something different, Y company would say something different, and that should be then analyzed completely with respect to all the companies there. But yeah, we can just take their information with respect to the products they are using, and with respect to other problems like which is comparably similar. So yeah, we can do, one would be the survey, and second would be since in our client environment, like in our set of companies, we generally do like our mainly sales team are directly dealing with like each of the clients, so we can just ask like, and they are they are giving demonstration of our products regularly, right? Because product is kind of easy to demonstrate, if not easy to develop, but it is very easy to demonstrate. So we can just ask them if they have a like demonstration which is scheduled for the next week. So we can just ask them to add one of our like add us, so that we can all understand more on the what the client is looking forward to with respect to the product he for which demonstration is scheduled, and with respect to other like other problems as well. So yeah, in these manner, like that, this could be the very first thing which we can do to understand the client needs.
Got it. Interesting. Understood. I think that's pretty clear. So a follow-up question would be, how would you go about preparing a roadmap, if not for a 12 month, right? For at least 3 or 3, 6, 9 kind of a roadmap. How would you kind of stagger and develop a roadmap basis your funnel of requirements, etc.? You also mentioned there's a capacity and there's some portion of it allocated to ad hoc, etc. How would you go about preparing the roadmap and like what? I mean, yeah, go ahead. That's the next part.
Yeah, I got it. Can I take just 10 seconds to
Yeah, please.
structure? Yeah. So roadmap can be built upon basis on so mm, basis on what like so we have 2 or 3 mechanism to add to our backlog, like all the like items to our backlog. One is whatever uh, clients are like looking, whatever prospects are looking forward to, which we don't have in our current current portfolio, and which we like, they are always marketing team also share with us different based on the website, and a sales team also share with us that our client is expecting this, can you deliver it, or do you have this capability. So based on what we are receiving directly from our marketing or sales team, second part would be what would be the uh, enhancements to our current existing product with respect to the product performance, since in our business above the performance matters a lot with respect to product performance, with respect to the since if you know like so if someone is our business, they would know that how the parameters of the final output matters a lot, and it is completely a government based data. So how can we just, with respect to the use cases these services are meant for, how can we add more parameters to this, parameters to the output, so that yes, we might not be getting directly in our integration database which we have taken on, but how can we do it more, like if we are, let's say if we're getting age, but age is directly not very much relevant, how can we, can, is it possible to instead of age we can just give date of birth to our clients, because that will help them more. So how can we improve ourselves with respect to the performance and with respect to the output, second is this, and third is with respect to then our competitor analysis. So we take all these we like take all these areas for our backlog items, and then we kind of map with respect to the revenue target or revenue potential they could give. So by first revenue potential directly shared by the sales team or marketing team with respect to and revenue potential is directly proportional to how many what could be the number of transaction or number of hits for that particular service or particular feature, so which is directly shared by the sales team. Uh, Second is if if we will add let's say a few more parameters, or if we can improve the performance of the service, so like the quality of that particular feature, how can that be mapped with more price, like let's say for example driving license service we have. So can we just take it like we have one basic and one we have advanced, in advanced more outputs, more quality of like good response time, so meaning the product quality, that quality is like comparably good. So can we do that? So second is this, and so that is again shared by our, if we propose this, and that is again shared by our sales or different camps, so whether it would be feasible or not. So second is this, and third is based on our competitor analysis, if we know that we can add those, so we, based on the revenue potential which we have examined, and based on the features which we have examined, we prepare our roadmap.
Got it. Got it. Cool. I think it's quite clear. I'll just have one question. So you've seen the JD and everything, right? What part of the JD would you rate yourself the lowest? As in any one of the we have listed around 7, 8 things that the PM needs to be involved in. Where do you think you would rate yourself the lowest, and where do you think you'll rate yourself, let's say, highest as well?
Okay, I'll start with the highest. So I would be able to rate myself highest in the product execution since I've been doing that for last 3.5 years since start of my career. And I've been dealing multiple products, multiple big products in my initial two companies, which was service-based company. Because in service-based, you have to work on multiple projects, whether they are big or small, and have to deal with different development team, different clients, different account managers of those clients, right? And yeah, so I have been doing that since long, and I know how to execute multiple projects parallelly. So yeah, I would rate myself the best in the execution part, and the least in the I would say in the data analysis part, because though am I have a fair amount of knowledge in uh, like analyzing data in Excel, but it is not in my KRA, and I haven't been doing this, though I am very much eager to learn. And I know the basics, and I also don't think that that would be a rocket science to learn. But yeah, since I haven't been doing this, as it was not part of my KRA in my last organization, yeah, so I would rate that for at least. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. That was great, Harshit. I think it was a very interesting interview. I think we had some good thoughts, etc. So yeah, I think Piyush, I'm kind of done. So right. Yeah. How do we go about it, Piyush? Next.
So we can jump into feedback and then we can open up for Q&A.
Sounds good. So yeah, high level, I think Harshit, I think it was a good job, right? I mean, overall, the way you kind of addressed most of the queries were good. Just couple of points. I think you need to be a bit more to the point, right? You kind of truth be told a bit all over the place, right? So you basically a better way to articulate would be give a short answer or a brief answer and justify it. Honestly, most of your answers you answered well, but it was not at all structured. It was a bit all over the place. For example, I asked you point around user research. You took me all around sales thing, user thing, etc. I actually lost focus itself as like I literally actually started checking Slack because I lost you because there was no attention from your end, right? So that is one major feedback. Always try to make because it's easy to lose an interviewer's focus, right? It's very tough to keep their attention. They have most of them are usually on video, not on video, basically multitasking. Being honest here, so I think that's a general feedback which I observed in all your answers. While you gave the answers well, but I think keep it a bit more coherent and to the point, very clear and very focused, right? So that is one. Second is, I think another thing which kind of came up is you mentioned that you're great in been working more on execution, like that's where your area is, etc. And PM's work. Again, the answer there was not very clear. I asked you how are the PMs prioritizing, what are the metrics. Uh, Now, honestly, this is something you'll face even in the company where you're interviewing for. Because I'm assuming from the look of it, it is a PM grade. But again, from basis the experience and the company, because I know few people there, it's mostly an APM grade, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So you should be in a position to say on what basis prioritization is getting done, right? It's fine if you say that it's revenue, if it is a customization for a client. I think you mentioned we take revenue projections and you in the latter part when we came to the roadmap. But on the prioritization part, I did not actually get a hang because typically standard practice which every most people sees, you get a high level BRD, you estimate the revenue potential, then you basically say, okay, now let's kind of get a high level t-shirt sizing from engineering team. Let's then, I mean, this is typically the way PMs work, right? Assuming, and we do a trade-off, right? Something which will take, let's say, 10 story points and give me, let's say, $100,000 of revenue MRR versus something which is 100 story points and going to give me like just 300 tons. So that needs to come out. That's because while you're not involved, because you're interviewing for a PM role, you should be prepared, right? And even though you're on the execution side, we have this even in my previous organization. We had people who were focused on execution. They were very clearly aware when they were grooming with the PMs that look this because we are prioritizing this because this particular metric is what we're trying to impact. or revenue is improving, or the funnel is basically improving, right? So I think that was one major takeaway. While you mentioned it, because it kind of gives away that you are not ready for the role, right? And honestly, I wasn't convinced. I was not very clear. Now that's one thing. So, and overall grooming bit, right? I think grooming is a very, very critical aspect from an execution standpoint. Now, you could have elaborated how grooming happened. You said this is not the way it works here, and you then actually got into a very slightly tangential. That's where what I was referring to the first point. To the point, right? We discussed, we have a large backlog. We kind of create a prioritized backlog basis projections from the business teams and what we want and what the PMs think makes sense from their own metrics, their own, which is basically tied in. Then you basically know the capacity, you plan the sprints and etc. Right? So I think could have been very coherent. So that's one thing. You also mentioned customization is always there, right? So I think the way you put customization is important, right? So I think it's easy to, because end of the day, then you're not a product manager, you then become a project manager only, right? If you're only sitting and doing customizations, and typically every other client keeps asking in B2B for a customization. So if every time you're saying I will do customization in my higher priority, I'll only pick up customization, then I'm sorry to say, but something is really not right. Or basically these are massive customization, which is going to like increase your revenue by 10%, 5%, right? So somewhere I think customization also has to be clear. What customization are you talking about? A layer, service, or it could be just performance enhancement, or it's basically customization for a particular client. So I think you need to be very, very, very clear. I did not deep dive in the interest of time, but that's another point. The other bit around compliance, the reason I asked is because this is a company which works with a lot of data, etc. Right? Data compliance would be a critical part because they'll be working with a lot of lenders and everything. Again, while you answered very well that you get stakeholder, you never once mentioned that the compliance team has to sign off, right? So for example, Orbridge can't store data in a Singapore server on AWS or Azure server in the Australia region, right? It has to be in India because it's your client's data. Now, that could have been articulated very clearly, saying compliance team or whoever signs off risk compliance or whatever analytics, anybody clearly signs off saying they give a formal sign off. We make sure it's baked into our product architecture or it's baked into our entire data layer, etc., security protocols. So that I think could have been, that way you would also have demonstrated that you're going out of your way to make sure that things are in place, right? I understand it's execution, but then again, PMs might just wash off their hands in some places, saying I never knew, right? But so that's one point. Compliance, I think that could have been, but I think you covered ground there. I like the point around sprint capacity ad hoc you called out, but again, you should have taken a couple of minutes to elaborate why our ad hoc comes in. Customization being one, but how does the product development process itself maybe take, right? You can always take a minute to say, Gautam, can I take a minute? Can I just take a minute to explain the development process? And let's say we keep certain kind of, let's say 20% of the bandwidth, engineering capacity in this particular development module, only for compliance things, sudden ad hoc requests by a client, suddenly not for technical, for architectural changes. So it's totally okay. I think would have elaborated, that would have helped, because that's the difference between a execution and a product thinking, right? You have to take that call, saying the 20% what X% you want to apportion for what. You'll have architecture, you'll have compliance, you'll have core technical issues, which is performance. Then you'll have the actual customizations and the actual product features that you actually want to ship out, etc. Right? So that's the difference, right, between what you're doing and where you're applying. So that overall did not come out very clear in any of your answers, right? A difference between execution and product guys at entry level also spend 95% of the time executing, right? So I think so. Bringing that out, that structure out, right, is my feedback to you, that try to work on, right, a bit more structured. How do you develop a sprint? How do you propose a sprint to engineering? How do you propose, because unlike let's say fintech and where I've come from, where our stakeholders are just business internal people mostly, right, and in customers, you are basically serving. In fact, my previous employer was also, we were using Orbit, by the way. you need to be very crystal clear, at least 3 to 4 sprints, because your end customers, clients need to be aware what's coming or if there's any changes, right? API call structure changes, response changes. So all of this, I think you need to bring out, right? So it's going to help you show to it tells the interviewer that, hey, Harshit has done his homework. He knows what he's talking about. He's well-rounded. It's a well-rounded thinking that he's thought about stakeholder management, in communication, and in terms of keeping people aligned, right? Because tomorrow your API response starts changing, then tomorrow people all hell will break loose, right? People will start saying that, hey, what the hell is this? I'm going to just go and migrate to a different vendor, right? Who can handle things. So that's very important that you kind of call out that structure, right? That I will always make sure stakeholders are informed and all of it. So I think, but overall, I think that bit was covered. User research, I think, right. So I think good thing you covered the basis on user research about the sales team kind of giving you feedback, you kind of doing competitor analysis, in some cases, which kind of ties up with the roadmap answer, as well as the end user, right? Now, typically that's a standard B2B approach that I have also kind of been doing. That's what most people do. So that I think that was well answered. There was not really, but where I think the answer could have been enriched is that you could have called up. Okay, sales comes with 100 requests. What are you adding value? How are you adding value, right? On what basis are you going to take a call on user research, right? So let's say client customer A has asked for a requirement, customer B has asked for a requirement. It's very much possible the both are same or they're 90% the same, right? Now the question is, how would you do user research? Ideal way, you would talk to sales guy, ask for a follow-up call with the client, and maybe if required, ask them to loop in their operations team or compliance team if it is a KYC solution. Or if it's a technical issue, basic technical challenge, API response time, try to understand from the developers or the engineering leads in the client, couple of things. So I think that bit is critical. Now, why am I calling out user research again separately is, in B2B companies, user research is not easy. End user research is not easy. It's easy to just take the feedback for sales, because again, sales starts at 10,000 feet. User research is at 10 feet. It's very, very, very different. And you doing user research is very critical, right? That's where a lot of young budding PMs spend a lot of time, right? You have to spend time with marketing, you have to spend time with sales, whether the marketing communication is going right. Are the end user using the product the way they should be using, or are they using it in a very different way? So it could, in your case, developers, right? So how do you reach out to developers? So I think a bit more emphasis matters, right? Where you're interviewing, you will not obviously go to developers, because custom development, I'm assuming, is going to be less. It's mostly going to go through the business and the product. So call that out. Again, it's going to tell the interviewer that, look, okay, Harshit knows its stuff, what he's talking about, right? But otherwise, basis covered there. Roadmap thing, I think it's good that you took a couple of minutes, right? Few seconds, which is very good, which is, I encourage, if you want to take anyone, that if ever you want to take a few seconds to take them, right? It's very good that you did it. But answer was not at all clear and convincing. It was again a bit all over the place. Maybe because you've not been involved in road mapping. But again, my suggestion here, try to read up things, how people roadmap, how your PMs roadmap. Because again, it was not clear. You spoke about competitor, revenue sharing, but how do you distill that into a roadmap, right? Technically, if everything is product is owning is revenue potential, how do you slice and dice, right? Within your model, what's the revenue potential happening, right? How much is the customization effort that's going in? What you spoke was more of a prioritization framework than a roadmap framework, right? So basically, how will you ship something in first month versus the third month, right? That bit was not clear, right? So I think I would say go back to a bit more understanding around how roadmaps are built, how KRAs are structured, how revenue estimations are done. And typically, most sales guys typically give a much higher, at least 2 to 3x the sales potential. If people are there on the call, they can attest it, than the actual market. So while you covered bases, again, bringing things together matters a lot, right? Yeah, I think I like to think highest. I think you mentioned execution, which is what I think I would have expected. People would say, I'm very great at customer experience, understanding. It's good that you actually called out at a great at execution. Right. Yeah. So I think, that's it. I was just saying that you kind of took the time. My only feedback here would be that you kind of spend that time where you kind of call out clearly that look roadmaps. So the difference between a prioritization and roadmap is eventually prioritization leads to a roadmap. Sorry, I'm connected on mobile. So the way to look at it would be that what is it?
Sorry to cut you, Gautam. I think you already discussed this point. You were
Oh,
referring
okay.
to highest and lowest.
Oh, great.
You
Awesome.
pick
Cool.
the highest part. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh yeah, that's great. Sorry, because I did not realize it started suddenly showing unstable internet. So yeah, I think highest it's great. Great that you called out execution and everything. Lowest is something I'll come. So yeah, data analysis is something. So one point here of honest feedback is you called out Harshit that it was not mentioned in your KRA and that's why you didn't do it right now. That's a very bad answer. It reflects. It's actually honestly most people would actually outright reject when they listen to that. I'll be very honest because it kind of gives out a feeling that hey, you can't go the extra mile, right? So it's like I am not going to understand the technical architecture because I'm a product manager, and I'm not going to understand response time because it's not my head. So it kind of comes out very poorly, right? So rather better ways, maybe I was more focused on execution and other things. So I really couldn't spend a lot of time would have been a better answer than maybe saying that it's not part of my KRA, right? People will really not take that very kindly. So that's a very honest feedback. But yeah, you should totally work on data analysis. And I'm actually a bit surprised because usually you said that you're a business analyst. So I would have expected you to be pretty conversant with SQL and other database queries. But yeah, that's my feedback. I know it was a bit long and winded, and hopefully it helped Harshit. So yeah, Piyush, that's it from my end.
Thanks a lot. I think we can open up for Q&A for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Gautam, hi, this is Siddharth. So can you elaborate more on how to make a product roadmap, how to really answer that question?
Yeah. So see, what's a roadmap? Roadmap is basically an evolution of thinking from something starting at 10,000 feet and coming down, right? So the way to start is what are the objectives? What are your KRAs? What are the key metrics that you're impacting? So for example, let me take a simpler example. Let's take the example of some player like a Facebook, right? So what is Facebook's end KRA? They kind of want to increase revenue, which is an end goal, right? And how do they want to do it? They basically want to increase the MAUs, the DAU metrics, and which is very high level numbers. Now, how do they get people to, their North Star metric would largely be a DAU, daily active users or MAU, right? Now, the ad team, basically the monetization team's product roadmap would entirely focus around a typical ARPU, average revenue or average advertising revenue per user, right? So everything they build will be kind of tied to that, right? So the way they would rather build is you also need to understand where we are in the journey. For example, Facebook is sending you notifications. So it's like I'm just making up, right? So it's good. You maybe start with something which is easy, low hanging, which you can kind of hit the ground running right now with very little effort, and then you slowly and steadily enhance it. So, for example, Facebook started building out just random notification. Then they built out location-based specific notification. Then they started sending us friend requests, a recommendation because we had certain other contacts who are mutual friend connects, etc. Then they started giving us pages. Then they started giving us events. And so things like that, right? So how do you do it? You basically start with the highest potential, right? Where do you see the metric that is getting impacted? Now, how do you arrive at the metric? That is where something like an A/B testing or a pure MVP kind of helps, right? Like in case of Facebook, they can afford to kind of say that, okay, on 5% or 10% of my base, I will try triggering the notification around events, right? Another 5 to 10%, they'll say, I'll just send out a random update that Gautam updated his profile, or Gautam basically checked into some new cool cafe and things like that, right? And they'll see the response rates, right? So that's how you kind of sequence it, right? You kind of run experiments and you sequence it. Now, other ways, basically MVP, where you might run and you identify one large problem statement or an opportunity, break it down into chunks. For example, I know that businesses our small and medium business advertising is a large opportunity, you then break it down, right? Saying, I will give it as a general advertising panel or general advertising. Then you basically make, so I'm going to allow them to tag it to specific locations or profiles, the way LinkedIn and Facebook are actually doing. Our next level, you will say, I'll recommend to the players so that they focus on it, right? So that's the way you kind of roadmap. You start with something simple, slowly and steadily build on it. Now roadmaps are fungible. They're not set in stone. So things can change. So typically roadmaps are a guiding point. In B2B, roadmaps are a bit tricky. That's why typically, usually most players build a guidance roadmap, saying that, as Harshit was saying, I'll create a KYC roadmap around, I'll improve performance time, I'll increase uptime. I'll basically add a couple of new data sources where I can do KYC verification, things like that, right? Now, this could come feedback from sales team and all of it, right? So, but eventually all of it tied is to one point, which is how many users or average, let's say I'm assuming in Harshit's case, product team is tracking number of hits or basically that number of users who are basically digitally KYC verified successfully, right? But as he was also, so that's the way you kind of by saying, you might realize that just because you give a better response time, people will continue to scale up and use us. Then you add a couple of new data sources for KYC verification, people will start integrating. So right now, tomorrow, you might realize that, hey, a couple of customers, there is some other new data source which was never in the picture, suddenly comes up. Then you have to reshuffle your own. Hope I answered the question.
But Gautam, like as it is dependent mostly on the matrices, like what matrices are you following? So we must question the interviewer that okay, what matrices would you like to cover, and based on that, I will prioritize the development and like what needs to be accommodated in the product. So, and that's how we're gonna structure our roadmap, right? Like, should we ask the interviewer what matrices are you expecting to increase, or like?
Yeah, right. I get where you're coming. Sorry, I'm on mobile. I really can't see names. Siddharth, I believe, right?
Yes.
Right. So you are welcome. I would strongly encourage everyone to actually ask questions, right? Because a challenge is, at least in this particular case, the JD was not very clear what part of the module, what was basically the organization looking. So there is no harm in asking clearly what metrics or what are the KRAs of the PM, right? So because you're joining, it's a two-way street, right? They're hiring you to perform. You should be aware what you're up to. So there is no harm. You're completely right. You should be revenue, but in B2B specifically, revenue potential aside, obviously, you should always ask what are the KRAs, what are the metrics, which 1 or 2 metrics, or maybe whatever other 2-3 metrics the team track. Yes, you should ask. I would strongly encourage it, because at least in this case, it was not very clear from the JD itself. And I think it also demonstrated to most people that, hey, that the interview has actually kind of done his or her homework and has kind of come to the table. And it's all the more better if when the JD is clear, if you can recommend, because many of them would also put the onus on me saying, what metrics would you track if you are, let's say, product manager of Facebook? So products where we use ourselves, right? Slack, Zoom, and all, we can come up or identify metrics. But for B2B, I would strongly recommend that you ask the interviewer what metrics they track.
Thanks, Gautam.
Yeah, Gautam, Suraj here.
Yeah, Suraj.
Yeah, so my point is basically focused on two things. Should we assume an example or should we ask for questions? For example, the very first point was guidelines. Now, I come from a background where I know a guideline itself from RBI guideline itself can be changed into a complete roadmap. For example, considering recurring payment changes, which was supposed to be happened today but postponed to 30th of June. So, and the roadmap thing, secondly, suppose, can we ask to the interviewer, like, what are the upcoming guidelines? What are the upcoming client requests which we have? so that I can morely understand what is the North Star metric is and what is the other metrics that is to be evaluated from this. So assuming what should be the preference? Should there be the assumptions by our own preparation, or should we get more into detailing from there and ask for the more questions from the interview itself?
Actually, very good question on the first part on the metric side, right? So, for my answer, if it is a standard product offering, right? Like in this case, in this particular case, this is a very not very clear, but like at least the one Harshit was talking about, it is very clear, right? The product offering is it's basically around the entire KYC verification suite. So there, I would expect the interview to be prepared and say that, hey, there is a new KYC regulation that's kind of coming from RBI. So how are you factoring? So I would rather put the onus on the interview. Two reasons. One, because that demonstrates your understanding of business side, right? And that in turn kind of cascades downstream into how good a product manager you are, how can you evolve, right? I mean, and shows that. Second is it also kind of shows that you are tracking and you know the industry well, right? You know you're keeping all of these points also. So I would actually place the owners rather than you asking regulation what's going to happen. Now that can be done in this particular case in the JD which Harshit has received, where the product is not very clear as in which module he'll be interviewing for, and it's an enterprise product. It's a fairly large enterprise product, so regulations and all directly will not impact it much, right? But there, yes, you can still ask because the product or module is not clear, so there's no harm in asking. One is, I think, outright the first question should be ideally to the HR or the pre-interviewers, try to get what product like with our module within that are they kind of hiring for. Second, follow-up to your answer, yes, you can ask. There's no harm if you're not clear on the product. You can always ask, is there anything? Coming to the point, as you rightly said, compliance rituals can kind of mess up the roadmap, kind of distort the roadmap and everything. Yes, that's true. So metrics, what was the bit around compliance? Kind of lost you. So you said roadmap getting affected.
Yeah, exactly. Means like not affected, but basically a single guideline can be a complete roadmap in it itself.
Correct. 100% correct.
Yeah, I got the answer basically. That is, you can assume or actually get into more detailing as per the JD and then ask the interviewer if required itself.
No, compliance has a separate roadmap. Yeah. It depends on organization, but yes, compliance requirements wherever which is like mission critical or not like kind of a really required thing. Compliance request for the company or data that the company is providing or to the end user. That has to kind of get back into road.
Sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich.
Hi, Gautam. Hiren this side.
Hi.
I'm not sure if this was discussed earlier because I was disconnected for a few minutes due to power cut. I just want to ask that during the feedback, you mentioned that one should be clearly defining, how sprint is defined initially and later on as a part of the product roadmap. But defining a sprint and backlog, is it not job of product owner or Scrum Master, or is it expected that product manager would be also doing some bit of work related to Scrum Master?
Okay, I think it's a more very organization specific question, to be honest. I know both the scenarios. In large organizations, you do have a Scrum Master, product owner, or a program manager or a project manager. I mean, they come in all names and shapes, right? So they kind of help you in the grooming. But the stories which goes into the grooming is that is the role of the PM, right? It's never going to be a Scrum Master role to prioritize. The entire prioritization is the onus of the PM always, right? Irrespective of you join any company, any scale, it's always the entire thing around making sure design is done, user research is done, stories are groomed, backlog is well defined, what is to be pushed, what's to be prioritized is always the onus of the product manager. Product owner or a Scrum Master only facilitates it.
Understood. So now I understood the boundary between both of them.
So product owner is a more execution focused, right? So they work more with engineering. They don't really get in a lot into the business or the stakeholder side. Their stakeholders are usually more around data, tech. Within tech, obviously, dev, QA, and all of it. Entire project management. Some teams have separate project management as a separate team, etc. So that's where Scrum Master or the product owners interact more. PMs continue to drive roadmap and sprints.
So our response should be always around the prioritization, not how we define the sprint on a iterative basis.
No, so
Is it correct?
as I think, as Harshit rightly pointed out and very validly, right? So in product can control what gets into a sprint. Product cannot control how much of it gets into a sprint because the bandwidth is not of the engineering team across development and QA cannot be controlled by PMs, right? So suddenly you have attrition in the engineering team, or suddenly for some reason there's a massive data, platform re-architecture going on. You can't control how much of it can be picked up, right? That's the strength and the weakness of the PM's role in itself. So what you can always do is prioritize ruthlessly with the product owner or the scrum master or with the engineering leads. That's what you can do, right? But you should, it depends. In slightly mid-sized companies, early stage product companies, early stage startups, typically the product folks actually control and drive sprints as well. Like I personally, even in all my organization till date, I have been involved at every sprint, pushing with engineering team, fighting for user stories, story points, how much of it can be picked up. So it is the joint responsibility of engineering, whoever is in the project management and the PMs. And it's in the interest of the PMs because it's their KRS that's also getting impacted, right?
Hi, Gautam. Satish here. So,
hey, hi, Satish.
Yep. So I just want to bring on question. So basically, the JD which the company will be revealing. So as a candidate, we should prefer that as a major criteria to apply. I mean, we need to review and well versed with the domain. For example, since you are into a fintech, so would you prefer go on only on a fintech based company, or as a product manager it can be anything? Yeah, so just to give a elaborate, so basically I was working in a US banking related an application where the NACHA and ACH and wire transactions will be happening. So I have a basic idea on like how the things are going on the flow. So since as a candidate, should I need to apply a fintech company which is US based payment domains, or am I qualified to apply on Indian payment gateways too? I mean, Indian based fintech too.
You can apply. There is no harm. See, fundamentals of so most domains across the globe are like 50, at least 50-60% pretty much the same, right? The lending or the payments industry in India versus the US underlying would be the same, but there are certain nuances that will vary, right? Like as you said, it depends. So it should not. I wouldn't say that you should restrict yourself from applying to Indian fintechs or Indian like lenders or Indian banks and NBFCs. It's totally like your call, right? There is no hard and fast rule, to be honest. Like as you said, you can even apply outside fintech. In my case, for example, I always been in fintech pre and post B school, like been in BFSI. I actually don't want to move out of this domain. I want to be in this domain for the rest of my career. So it's totally going to be your call. Obviously, shortlisting is obviously on the hiring manager, right? So they usually, to be told, in the BFSI space, cross-border is not very encouraged. So if you are somebody who's specialized in the US, the chances of actually getting a shortlist for a very, very challenging or a very for a senior roles are usually pretty less actually in product. Because it varies a lot. ACH in the US is very different from the way ACH works in India, right? So the the data sources, the data aggregation works in US or any other market is very different. So I would encourage trying both, but the chances of getting a shortlist is always higher where your relevance is higher.
Yeah, Gautam. Thanks for your input.
Cool. I think that's it.
Thanks a lot, Gautam, for conducting this session. I think everyone would have been helped from this session. And so thanks a lot.
Thanks, Piyush. Thanks, everyone. I think
Thanks.
we were
Gautam.
kind of spilled over
It
by
was very
30 minutes.
insightful.
Thank you, Gautam.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks again. Thanks for volunteering us. Thanks, Piyush, for organizing. Thank you.